Hey guys, hope you're doing well. As you can tell, I am not in my room. I'm actually in my laboratory here where I work as a postdoc, and I've built the courage, decided to do not overthink anything, and give you a lab tour in this new series on my channel known as Lab Vlogs. So without further ado, why don't I show you where I work? So this is University of Leicester's research laboratories at a local hospital known as the Glenfield Hospital, and I am in the respiratory kind of unit, and this is one of a few labs in a few different buildings, and I am in the Celta area where I am mostly in for the past year and a half, and I do all sorts of research in the sense of in vitro work, cell culture, isolations, ELISAs, Westerns, PCRs. I want to show you some of the areas where I do that as you do in a lab tour. And this is definitely out of my comfort zone because I'm normally in a very easy setting. In my bedroom, it's all organized, all set up, I'm in one place, I'm not moving around. So I hope you do enjoy it. I hope you do enjoy me in a lab coat as opposed to in my room on a nice comfy chair. However, why don't I show you the first bit? And the first bit being is, many of you may not know that I work here part-time on a Monday and Tuesday. I have 3 different postdoc jobs in a week, and there's a very long story as to why I have that. And because of that, I don't technically have my own lab bench. This is the PhD student's bench. This is my bench. Not great, is it? So all of my consumables, all the stuff that I need, that I do quite a lot of, is stored here underneath the PhD student's bench, and then I hot desk on whichever bench is potentially free in order to do my work. Not easy, but it is what it is. But with that in mind, one of the main machines that I use, might get a bit loud, bear with me, is the actual plate reader, which is over here, which I'm going to show you now. Sorry if it's a bit loud because of the -150 freezer, but this is the actual plate reader over here. It's called a Inspire, Perking Elmer Inspire, and I use it for cell viability assays, for ELISAs, for protein assays, for mast cell isolation assays, for fluorescent assays. So I actually use this quite a lot, which is why I come here first in my lab tour, because this is the predominant machine that I use. I actually used to use it a lot in my PhD when I was at the university, and now I've used it a lot here for my postdoc in this particular role. You might be wondering, what's this really noisy thing over here? -150 freezer, which is probably as old as me. Am I old? Comment down below how old you think I am. I'm interested to see what you think. Before we we've got a cell culture hood over here, and this is predominantly where I actually do my, this is where I actually do a lot of the benchtop work over here. So a lot of ELISAs that I've been doing recently, I do it over here. While I'm here, I'll just go quickly check something. I'm gonna have to make more buffer later. Why? But moving on to the other part of the lab tour is the Western Blot area. So this is where I'm at. It's actually where the Western Blot stuff takes place for most of the researchers here. So you've got the heat block, you've got the transfer turbo block, all of this is biorad based stuff, and then you've got the kind of power pack. So the way it's done here, I think 99% of the time, is using precast gels, using transfer stacks. So for those who may not know, is you might be doing your Western blots via making your own gels and then making your own sandwiches, etc. Here is kind of ready made, which is fairly common depending on which university you're at, and it does save time, but it is expensive. So all of the reagents needed, all of the kind of bits and bobs and little fun things like like gel cassettes and tank covers and all of that all gets stored around here. Even kind of buffers, I think somewhere, if I can find it, there was the 10x stuff. So all that is kind of stored here. And funnily enough, behind here is some pretty cool software I want to show you. That took a lot longer than I thought. So here is the flow cytometer. It's the Attune NXT, which is known as a acoustic flow cytometer. Now I'm going to get into all the details as to why. That would probably require another separate video, but this is quite a well-versed, quite a good flow cytometer for a research lab and research group. It has, I think, 6 or 8 channels, I can't remember. So in simple terms, it can do quite a lot of stuff, quite a lot of flow cytometry stuff, which is exciting. The only problem is that I kinda don't know how to use it yet. So remember I mentioned earlier in the video, I have 3 different postdoc jobs. In the 3rd job, I'm doing flow cytometer at that institute in a very small version, which is like probably that size. And I'm doing kind of cytokine profiling and multiplex stuff, so fairly complicated, but using a simple flow cytometer. So that will give me the confidence and courage and the know-how to potentially then use this one when I get over it. Comment down below if you do use flow cytometry, and if so, what is the model or the machine name that you have, because I'm interested to see how does yours compare to this big bad boy over here. So we mentioned plate reader, Western, flow. What about PCR? Let's go to PCR. Let me take you there. If you're a researcher, you know that is always happening in some lab, because somebody's always left something overnight because they're doing Western blots. So here behind me is the thermocycler, the Quant Studio 5. It's a lot kind of qPCR, and what I'm looking over here, let's just show you, is the kind of PCR hood. Now I've done some kind of RNA isolation, cDNA synthesis. I did 1 or 2 PCRs, but I haven't had time to go further because I'm only here part-time, which is obviously a bit frustrating. But there is a lot of PCR that gets done in this actual lab, especially with ELISAs. We've got tons of, I think, plates in here, primers and all that type of stuff. So this is kind of the PCR studio. And with any PCR studio, what you need is a nano drop. And when I first heard about this, I was like, you can actually detect that in 1 microliter, which is pretty cool. And this shows you just the amazing stuff, amazing things you can do with research and science. But as amazing as all this is, you get some really crafty stuff and really annoying things in research. I'm just going to show you now. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, Aamir.phd, you can see over here, you might have seen a reel that I did around about just here. Just looking at where I am with this -80. And the reason why is that I spent months trying to find space, and it turns out that there was space right next to the original space that I had, which is annoying. And I'll put a photo here if I can show it of the space that I found next to my original space. And if you know what I'm on about, you know how difficult it is to find freezer space and storage space in any lab in the whole world. Luckily I found it right next to mine. I won't open it because then I have to close it and all that stuff. But if you know about freezer stuff, you know how competitive it is to find space, let alone find jobs, publish papers, go to conferences. Forget all of that, trying to apply for grants. The most competitive thing of all is finding freezer space. However, with that in mind, why don't we go to the TC hood, where I grow all sorts of crazy things. Let me take you over there. So here is the TC hood, which is kind of the dedicated area of growing all types of cells, isolated cells, primary cells, isolating cells from tissue. Whatever you might be doing is generally done here. So this is the room before the actual cell culture, which is just over there, behind that door, you can see over there. And you can see we've also got fridges, freezers, ice machine, which I don't think is actually working, and then your usual sinks. And all of this is the usual stuff you have with it. So you've got your CO2 cylinders, you've got your media, which will be stored in here, tons of stuff in there. And then we go into the cell cultures. And because I'm here quite early, nobody's here, I'm trying to go in with a lab coat, so no need to worry about me not adhering to health and safety. It's okay. Let's go. So this is the cell culture stuff. We've got 4 hoods, 4 different hoods, and they're all used for different purposes. One is for primary cells, some are for actual isolated cell lines, and then some are for particular types of cells that we use. We have these incubators here as well, which I'm just going to show you. And these are related to those different cell lines. So some are just for ones that have been freshly harvested to make sure that there's no mycobacteria or anything that we need to test before it contaminates anything else. Some are for cells that have been growing, some are for primary cells. And for those who know cell culture, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. If you don't know cell culture, just imagine speaking foreign languages fine. It's just related to growing different types of cells in the lab for us to test many type of models, whether we're trying to assess its activity or its function or its viability, or grow cells together, or check proteomic levels, so proteins, enzymes, genes, transfections, all you name it. All of that is related to doing stuff inside these hoods. And I've spent my fair share here helping to isolate mast cells from lung tissue, and then using the hoods to activate these mast cells, and then see what we can do in terms of their effect on certain other actual cells within the lung and asthmatic environment. And that's essentially what I do here in this role for the past 2.5 years. That's cell culture. So guys, that was a little bit of a quick tour in the different laboratories that I actually work in here at this institute, and I just wanted to show you a bit of insight as to the different things that I do here and then the different facilities that are here, in case you're thinking of doing a PhD and you're unsure of how a lab looks, or if you are doing a PhD and you want to see how does different laboratories compare to the ones of your own. Do comment down below what other questions you have in terms of what type of systems you saw, or what type of machines you saw, what type of resources were in the background whilst I was talking that you may have questions on or queries on. And if you've got any questions regarding lab work or anything like that, please let me know down below, or you can find me on Instagram, Aamir.phd over here, or you can email me if you want to at aamir@ResearchTribe.org. This was a new experience for me. I've been very used to the more videography and filmography in my bedroom, in the makeshift studio and the lighting and all of that. So this was more of a vlog style video, which is a bit interesting. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any feedback on how you enjoyed the video or how you didn't, I would love your feedback, because it'll help me to make better videos. This is definitely going to be a series on this kind of lab vlogs, and if you do like it, I will make more of it, and if you don't like it, I shall not make more of it. I'll stick to the research tips and advice. But it's been a uncomfortable but enjoyable journey, and if you enjoyed it, do let me know down below. And just before I leave, if you are here and you are doing some form of lab work, there's some videos just over here about some lab tips that might be beneficial for you, so I do hope you enjoyed that. But in any case, I shall see you in the next one. Take care.